I think I'm just gonna put it. Brandon.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Terry Bowe, and I represent District 17 on the Metro Council, and I also serve as the chair of the Immigrant Caucus. We are here today because over the weekend, Tennessee Highway Patrol conducted traffic stops in coordination with Homeland Security Investigations and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, that has shattered over 150 families who do not know where their family members are. We have community members who are scared to drive to and from work, to go to school, or leave their home. They're fearing racial profiling while driving. The effective black bagging of our community members has really created widespread fear and confusion in our immigrant communities. Families are worried and people are unsure who to trust. And we want to be clear. Many questions have arisen if Metro Nashville Police Department or other Metro departments were assisting or participating in these raids. Thank you to Chair Evans for calling a specialty called meeting of the Public Health and Safety Committee on Wednesday, May 7th at 4 p.m. At this meeting, we will make sure these questions are answered. The lack of transparency around coordination with federal agency has raised serious questions, and those deserve answers. We are in close communication with immigrant rights organizations, legal aid providers, and local advocates, including Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors, to ensure that those affected are informed of their rights and have access to legal support. They will be speaking later to share resources. To our immigrant, refugee, and undocumented neighbors, we want to remind you that you have rights, regardless of your status. You do not have to open your door without a warrant signed by a judge. You have the right to remain silent, and you have the right to speak to an attorney. Our message today is this: Nashville must be a place of safety, not surveillance, a city that is welcoming and not fearing. These tactics erode the trust between communities and local government, and they make all of us less safe. As the chair of the Immigrant Caucus, I call on Metro leadership to clarify our city's role, if any, in these operations and to recommit to policies that protect, not endanger, our neighbors. We urge community members to stay informed, to report ICE activity to trusted immigrant organizations, and to lean on each other in this time of fear and uncertainty. We want to remind you that we stand with you, we fight for you, and we will not be silent. And I want to remind everyone that you belong. Thank you so much. And Sandra Sepulveda coming.
Hi, everyone. I am Councilwoman Sandra Sepulveda of District 30. And I want to thank all of you for being here and all of our partners and advocates who are joining us here today. What happened over the weekend is something that we have known was to be expected with this new administration. And when we first created the immigrant caucus, what we told people was to be prepared. It's hard not to be scared, but the important thing was to be prepared. And Friday, I was actually at Plaza Mariachi with Charlie Rodriguez and Isabel Felix from the Painters Union, and we were giving them information as far as know your rights for not only immigrants, but for workers as well. Because we know that workers are also targeted and threatened with deportation when they speak up, when their wages are being stolen, or when they are put in dangerous situations. And then later that night, people were taken. And people were separated from their families, and there are still a lot of questions that have gone unanswered. Representing the district where a lot of these Nashvillians were picked up is very difficult at this moment. I represent along Harding and Lawrenceville Pike, along with some of my colleagues that are here today, Councilmember Vo and Councilmember Welsh. These are our constituents. These are our community members. These are Nashvillians. These are people who are building this city and making sure that the city runs. And these are people that pay taxes. And they deserve to be represented by all of us. And I want their families to know and the community to know that we at the Immigrant Caucus and many of the advocates that are here today are here for all of you. And as we go into these next couple of days and ask more questions from our different departments and see what plans we could put in place to make sure that we are protecting each and every one of these, our constituents, I want to give this reminder to the community that it is important for you all to remember your rights, because you do have rights. Some of you might not have legal status, but you are still a human being and you are still a Nashvillian. And so it is important for you to remember not only your human rights as immigrants, but your worker rights. So with that, I'll turn it back over. Well, I'll turn it to Tessa with Tennessee Justice for me. Thank you, Councilman. Again, my name is Tessa Lemos-Delpino, and I'm speaking on behalf of Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors, a nonprofit law office providing legal representation to individuals seeking humanitarian relief, educating the public about immigration, and advocating for immigrant rights. Joining me today is Casey Bryant, Executive Director of AIR, which is Advocates for Immigrant Rights. An organization is Office in St. Memphis and Murfreesboro that fights for liberty, safety, and inclusion of immigrants in the United States, especially those marginalized through representation and advocacy. Also joining me is Conferencia, Executive Director of Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. We're gathered today in response to the actions of the Tennessee Highway Patrol on May 4th, when it collaborated with ICE in targeting and the detention of individuals based on their immigrant status. This event completely shaken our communities. We are outraged and we're here to say clearly and unequivocally, this is not what public safety looks like. Let's be clear, immigration law is the federal law. It's not appropriate for the Tennessee Highway Patrol or any state or local agency to enforce federal immigration law. When state officers assume the responsibilities of ICE, they overstep their proper authority and stretch for limited resources and undermine the trust of the community they are sworn to protect. We all have limited resources in this country. Law enforcement, advocates, service providers, and families alike. That's why it's an imperative that we each do what we do best. Local and state law enforcement should focus on protecting public safety, not deporting our neighbors. Immigration matters should be handled through the federal process, not through arbitrary roadside stops and racially motivated detentions. THP is not only acting outside of its mission, it's also diverting resources away from where they are most needed. Meanwhile, community organizations and legal advocates are stepping up to provide rapid response support, legal counsel, and protection for families devastated by these detentions. We stand with our immigrant neighbors against a system that chooses fear over fairness. Our coalition is responding to the urgent needs of our community. Rapid response teams are gathering information to allocate resources where they're most needed. And we are working together to support those who are impacted. Bill Lee and the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security to immediately explain the goals of this collaboration with ICE. And we call on our community to stand with us. Because this is not just about immigration. It's about justice, dignity, and the right to exist without fear. To our community and the immigrant community, you are not alone because we are here to support you. If you were directly impacted by the ICE detentions over the weekend, you must reach out to legal service providers now. Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors has joined forces with Turk and our Welcome South partner, Advocates for Immigrant Rights, to screen individuals for bond eligibility and representation in bond proceedings. AIR has significant experience representing individuals in bond hearings and is willing to step forward and join this effort. Turk will act as the initial point of contact for families impacted by these detentions. Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors, Turk, and AIR will be coordinating together to provide legal representation as capacity permits. If you are an attorney with immigration bond experience who is willing to provide pro bono or low bono representation in bond proceedings, please send an email to volunteer@tnjbond.org. If you or a family member was detained, please reach out to Turk's Legal Resource Line at 615-410-30 to be referred for representation. I also urge you to be cautious. Do not share private or personal information unless you know it is protected by attorney-client privilege. When consulting someone for legal advice, please be sure that they are a licensed attorney or a Department of Justice accredited representative working at a nonprofit that is a recognized organization under the Recognition and Accreditation Program. The roster of this program can be found on the justice.gov website, and I'd be happy to point you directly to that. Thank you.
Hi, and I'll ask Tara and Tessa to join me up here and help Cato as well. My name is Lisa Sherman Luna, and I'm the Executive Director of the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. Thank you everyone so much for being here today. All of us know what happened in South Nashville Sunday morning. It does not represent the values of this city. We know that Nashville celebrates its immigrant community and the richness of diversity that it brings. Everyone, no matter the color of their skin, what's in their wallet, or how they came to call Nashville home, deserves the freedom to get home safe and the freedom to make a better life for their families in our community. Our hearts go out to every individual and family affected by this egregious example of the cruelty of indiscriminate immigration enforcement. Our community organizers and legal staff have been in constant communication with people who are detained, their loved ones, and people who only know that their friend didn't come home on Sunday morning. Right now, we've been in contact with over 60 families, and our assistance line continues to ring because they're currently arrests being carried out today. Our full focus right now is making sure that everyone affected has their fair day in court and that families and friends are reunited with their loved ones. Turk has significant experience assisting people after immigration enforcement operations all across Tennessee, and most recently in the large mass-scale raid in Morristown in 2018. We were born for this moment. At Turk, we know from experience that actions of immigration enforcement have ripple effects throughout families and communities. As breadwinners lose jobs, children lose a parent, and businesses lose owners. That's why a support system like the Belonging Fund, launched today, is so necessary to fill the gaps that many immigrants' families face in times of crisis. Whether it's rent, groceries, or school supplies, or diapers, the Belonging Fund will help keep countless families afloat when they need it most. Whether in the face of family separation, natural disaster, or other times of need. This has been something that we've been talking to Hal for several months now, and obviously the urgency of this moment calls for the release and the launch of this fund today. That's why I'm so grateful for Hal and the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee for helping to establish this fund, and proud to stand alongside Conexión Américas and Tennessee Justice for Our Neighbors, as the three of us are initial contributors to this life-saving resource. I want to acknowledge there are other groups and funds that have been established to support the community. The Remix has a fund as well to provide mutual aid. And so there are lots of ways that Nashvillians can get plugged in and support the families. What we love about our community and about Nashville is we always come together when our communities are in need, and this time is no different. Community coming together is what truly keeps us safe and supported. And together in this moment, we can make sure that and in a better position to give every family the opportunity to thrive no matter where they come from or how they got here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for being here this afternoon. I'm Jeff Prepti. I represent District 25 on Metro Council. We're going to pause and take some questions now, but first I just want to say a special thank you not only to all the members of the Immigrant Caucus, including Councilmember at-large Zulfat Swara. I want to give a special thank you to Senators Oliver and Campbell for being here and supporting our community as well. So at this time, we'll pause and take some questions. Yes.
Yeah, so obviously these raids were handled out in South Nashville, Antioch, Paragon Mills, places where the Hispanic community knows to congregate. THB called this a public safety operation targeted at possible gang activity and a history of serious traffic crashes. I want to get your thoughts on this being called a public safety operation and the fact that local law enforcement was effectively, as we know, left out of the loop of that.
Yeah, so I have two responses to that. First is that if you look at statistics, immigrants and new Americans commit crimes at a lower rate than natural-born citizens. That is a fact. Also, with these claims, we live in a country and a society of laws and processes, and the government has the responsibility of proving their case, of providing evidence for those claims. We have not seen a single shred of evidence provided to us by THP or by ICE for those particular claims. The mayor mentioned earlier that our local MNPD and Department of Transportation have access to all that data and are able to show those particular hotspots. But the THP are making claims that are contrary to what we see. So if that is the case, provide us the evidence. Yes.
Mayor O'Connell has stated 3 times that MNPD did not participate in this operation. Obviously, there's a meeting set up later this week to kind of have more accountability. Do you think that the mayor's response has been adequate, or what is missing in terms of transparency?
Yeah, so I think that our role as council members is distinct from the role of the mayor's office. Particularly with the specially called meeting that we'll be holding on Wednesday, our goal is to suss out and specifically get those particular answers and see what is in place, what communications had taken place, and what had not. So our role is distinct and independent from the mayor's office.
And I do want to add some more information for community members who might be attending and other council members who will be attending. There is a public comment period at the beginning of all committee meetings, so community members have an opportunity to speak during that time. There are only 8 minutes allocated by the rules to be able to do that. But Chair Evans has encouraged people to send in testimonials to her email. That's erin.evans@nashville.gov, in which she will be compiling all of that and putting it on council members' desks. So for those community members who might not get the opportunity to speak, you do have an opportunity to submit testimonials to the chair of the committee.
What are you all planning to do in the chamber as legislators to respond to this legislatively or prevent something like this from happening again in Davidson County?
Yeah, so I think one of the most important things that council plays is oversight of our institutions. So again, in the specially called rules meeting, making sure that we are getting the information that we're requesting, seeing what communications have and have not taken place. With regard to any particular legislative action, that's something that we'll be taking into consideration. One of the things that we also have to take into consideration is the new state law that takes effect July 1. But with that, we stand ready to fight for our community, regardless of what that means for us. Yes.
Can you go as if the state of Tennessee is struggling with immigrants, specifically those in the Hispanic community?
Yeah, so what I'll say to that is what we have seen broadly across the state and across this nation is more insidious than just targeting our most vulnerable communities. It is a direct assault on our foundational and fundamental principles of the American dream. An American dream that myself and everybody standing here before us is a product of. And we're working to make sure that that American dream is a reality for every single person in every corner of our community, regardless of their immigration status. What we are seeing from this federal administration is a fundamental misunderstanding or an inability to understand the American dream. And we stand ready to continue to fight for that and to remind every single person in our community, regardless of their immigration status, that you are welcome, that you have a place here, and that you play a fundamental role in American society.
Can you elaborate on how that July 1st law that will be taking effect then might impact the work that you guys do in terms of supporting immigrant communities?
Yeah, so the law, in essence, provides for criminal liability for any person on a local level who votes for what is a sanctuary city. There has been a lot of research and thinking into how we respond to this, and so those are ongoing things that we'll be ready to discuss further whenever the law takes effect. Yes.
Would the senator be able to answer a question real quick? Have you been in contact with the governor at all? Have you spoken to him about this? And what has he been able to tell him about this situation? What happened in the city? Because obviously we've seen the past special session, they have had multiple bills to target immigration in the state. So what is the governor being able to tell you if you've been able to have?
So the governor has not told us anything. Moreover, I find it surprising that we haven't heard it all from the governor. I would think that the governor will want to respond to this as it's involved the Tennessee Highway Patrol. But, you know, it's alarming to us. We have sent a letter as the Davidson County delegation to Metro and to the governor and to the Highway Patrol asking specifically who was apprehended, why did they do this, what was the genesis of this, and we hope to hear back soon, and we'll let people know what's here.
Quick follow-up to that. Are you guys going to be following up with THB because obviously the reasons for all these stops were minor traffic violations. Is this something you guys are going to be looking closer at as far as the reports and stuff?
I mean, 150 traffic violations at that particular corner on that night. Come on, that's absolutely ridiculous. So I think that was the excuse that was being used to pull people over here.
Yeah, and in our intake with all the families, there's not been a single person that we've been found that's been cited under state law. They've all had civil immigration charges. So it was a trap, quite frankly. It was a dragnet that led to people being picked up based on their skin color and immediately turned over to ICE to be held on civil immigration charges.
We know if the majority of the people that we picked up were children or over age, or were there any children that were detained at all?
We don't have any reports yet of any children, but I do have a report of a mother who had to leave her 9-year-old in the car by himself while they waited for somebody else to come pick him up. As a mother of a 10-year-old, I cannot imagine leaving my child alone in a car waiting for somebody else to come pick them up while ICE arrested me and took me into custody. This is not keeping anyone safe, and it is not a reflection of our values, and there are serious questions that I'm sure we're all going to be asking of THP and the governor and the use of Tennessee taxpayers' resources to separate families in this way.
Stephen?
Yeah, you mentioned the state law related to local officials' criminal liability, but the federal administration has also proven that they're open to pursuing criminal charges for people supporting undocumented immigrants. Have you guys, any of you sought legal counsel about your own, what you can and can't do in terms of advocating for people?
So those are conversations that we're continually having both within our Metro Law Department, as well as I can speak for myself, speaking to several attorneys about particularly what it could possibly mean. But one thing that I want to note is that at times leadership demands sacrifice. And we stand ready to continue the fight for our community, ensuring that everybody knows that they have rights, and that we are not going to sit idly by while those rights are violated. Because what we are seeing is a fundamental attack against our most basic constitutional principles of due process, something that is guaranteed to everybody in our nation, regardless of their legal status. And we're not going to sit idly by while that continues to happen.
Do the other council members here also agree that, you oppose MNPD's cooperation with federal immigration laws? Does anyone not agree with that? You all raise your hand. Everyone agrees with that here at the council.
Everyone agrees, and
Yeah.
and that's why we're setting up the meeting on Wednesday to find out what did MMPD do, when did MMPD find out, what was the participation in when. And so that's the whole reason why we want to find that out. So no, it's very important for us to know that law enforcement is not involved in this and questioning them on Wednesday. I wanted to add to the lawsuit of the fact that we may be sued or whatever that is. It is unconstitutional. The right of elected officials to be able to make decisions on behalf of their constituents is a national right, it's a constitutional right. And so nobody, not the governor, not anybody can take that away. And so we stand ready to continue to support and to represent our own constituents the way that we deem fit without fear or intimidation from anybody. And so we will do that. And then to the question about security or safety, why THP said they did this, it's baloney. Everybody knows that when you do something like this, it does not make us safe. What comes out of this is that people now become more scared to deal with law enforcement. People don't have trust of our law enforcement. We're trying to build that trust, and something like this erode that trust, and does not make any one of us safe. So if they're claiming it's for safety, that's a lie.
She hasn't asked what yet.
Well, my question is regarding the 10 years old child, because normally, like as the law, we cannot let our kids of 10 years old alone. How immigration can do this, how ICE can do that, put our kids on risk.
Yeah, so what I would say to that is, we are seeing federal agencies operate with absolute impunity. We've seen this federal administration flouting court orders, and ignoring due process and ignoring the law. I would state that all of these activities might not necessarily fall within their actual legal authority. I think that is something that we'll be looking to here at the local level, but it's something that also needs to be looked into at the state and federal.
Yes, yesterday at Brick Church Park, we saw people being loaded into buses, obviously going to be transported to a different site. Do we know by confirmation that some of these people were people that got picked up during the detention between THC nights?
Yeah, so I'd say that a good amount of those folks were folks that were picked up by THP. And then looking at the time, I know we do have some committee meetings happening, so we'll take 2 more questions.
So you know where that bus was headed?
Not at this time.
Do you know
Oh,
what?
Louisiana.
Do you know what happened with the cars? We have some reports of people that were detained at that moment, and they didn't give you any information of the car. Do you know what happened with those cars? Because we know that they have the license plate, and they gave it to them this morning, but they do not know what happened with those cars.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Turk is looking into right now and that seriously concerns us is still people's personal property and they have a right to that property. But we have multiple reports of people's cars being abandoned, ICE agents taking keys, and leaving cars on the side of the road, that were still there even hours later. And so that's something that we're investigating.
That's what, yes.
I'm curious, with all of this happening right now, there are some council members who have been supportive of surveillance efforts. And I know that there is nothing right now, but I'm curious if the council members have changed their minds on supporting surveillance. We'll see that is what this is what it is for.
Yeah, so I'll speak on behalf of the immigrant caucus with that. Whenever surveillance programs were first proposed before the Metro Council, the immigrant caucus came out in opposition to that for this particular reason. And so it is frustrating at best at seeing our worst fears coming to fruition. I would state that it is incumbent on every single constituent to speak with their council member, to let their voices be heard, their particular policy positions, and understanding why they take the positions that they do. But this is a moment where we are focused on providing the resources to our community, understanding how our public policy affects the way that our institutions operate in our city, and really administering our public policy in a responsible and meaningful way that really is targeted towards ensuring the safety of every single person in our community. And to that end, I want to reiterate to every single person at home who is watching, who is fearful right now. We understand that. That fear is personal to us as well. But know that you are not alone in this, that we stand with you and that we will stand in front of you and continue to fight for your right to exist in this country free of harassment from an authoritarian government. Thank you all so much for being here.